You're watching Next Pitch, the student athlete playbook for parents raising tomorrow's athletes.
Hi, Anthony Leverett here, host of the Next Pitch podcast. And on behalf of my Emmy Award-winning producer, Jason Cardona, we are super excited about today's guest, head coach of the women's basketball team at the University of Utah, Gavin Petersen. We dive into all sorts of different topics, growing up being a student athlete that didn't play in college, and kind of that transition into coaching, going through the grind of being a young coach, talk about dealing with family as a coach. We dive into the transfer portal, NIL, all the stuff. So I really enjoyed the conversation. Hope you enjoyed as well. Without further ado, here's Gavin. Gavin Petersen, welcome to the show. Head coach, University of Utah women's basketball. Kind of surreal, actually, for me sitting here talking to you today. But I'm thrilled that you took the time out of your. I know how busy your day can be, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Awesome, thanks for having me, and looking forward to building on a full season at the helm here.
We're going to get into that here a little bit later. Talk about how different that seat is 1 inch over from where you were sitting suddenly. But let's start as your early days, right? You grew up in Hawaii. When did you get involved in athletics? I read you played football and basketball both in high school. But as a young kid, when did you get involved in athletics?
Man, started at a very early age. Very fortunate to have my dad be able to coach me literally in all sports, baseball, basketball, football. Those were the 3 sports that I played growing up, and very fortunate to have him be a part of me growing up and my childhood playing sports. My dad also officiated college basketball. So, kind of in the back of the mind, unconsciously, maybe that was where I was geared towards going in the big picture of things. But no, I love baseball. Basketball was something that you played in the winter in Hawaii, but baseball and then football, taking advantage of all the year-round weather that we get. So I loved playing sports growing up. My sister, on the other hand, she took into the hula side of things. So she's had her career there, and, I've been able to do, fulfill my career goal with sports included in it at a pretty good level here in the Big 12 at the University of Utah. But yeah, growing up in Hawaii, playing childhood sports, man, it was awesome. Every weekend, family, it basically everything circled and revolved around your games. And those are things, those childhood memories that I still kind of reflect on. And man, I just was fortunate growing up there.
When did you know, because sports as a player, we talk about this a lot on the show, sports for players ends at some point. Even if you are, I just interviewed Darren Sutton, son of Don Sutton, that pitched for 22 years in the bigs, right? His career ended. And some people's end after junior high, some people's end after high school. When did you know that dream of being a college player was probably not going to happen for you?
Yeah, I think after my senior year in football, I knew football was done. It's ran its course. I've had friends who have played in the NFL. I've had friends who have been big time All-Americans at, the University of Washington, the University of Nebraska, University of Utah here. And so it's just like, I understand, like, they're here and I was not. So that one was a real easy one to kind of like, okay, let's move it along. Basketball, on the other hand, I held on to that one for as long as I could. I knew I wasn't going to go play football. I still wasn't sure where I was going to go to college. So I ended up like, okay, I'm going to stay home. Went to Hawaii Pacific University. And at the time, NAIA school under legendary coach Tony Salito, coming off, I think, 3 years before they won the NAIA national championship. So I show up to open gym and, I want to be involved with basketball. Let's give this a go. Maybe I can. It lasted very short. And again, I think very realistically, I'm like, wow, nope, there are people that play the same position as you that are not 5'8", they're 6'4". And I thought I was a good shooter going to open gym there. Like, no, there are levels to this. And so quickly it hit me, and it's just like, okay. And so now I have an adult decision. What do you want to do? And by the grace of God, and again, who my dad was, who having officiated college basketball, him and Tony Solito had a great relationship. And I was given a partial scholarship to stay on as a manager.
That's
and,
awesome.
You know, it took 5 months and then I got a full scholarship. So it was like one of those, like, gosh, back then I probably didn't know it was the best thing for me. But at that moment, the game and how I looked at the game started to evolve.
Yeah.
And it was probably at that point, because I still went to rec ball. We still played pickup Friday nights at Kailua Rec Center at 10 p.m. We were there till 2 a.m. at times. And it's just, you know, loved basketball. And so we kept playing. We kept traveling around looking for pickup games. But it was around at that time that, like, I started to look and view the game from a different vantage point. And lo and behold, after I graduated there, I was able to get my foot in the door with Vince Gu at the University of Hawaii for the Rainbow Wahine basketball program. Started out as a manager and worked my way into a GA. And then again, right place, right time. And that's where I got my coaching start.
So is this year 23 that you're going into? Is that even set?
Year 24. I count those 3 years at the University of Hawaii. So it's my 27th year with the D1 program.
Okay.
But in terms of coaching, this will be year 24.
That's crazy, man. And you're a young dude to have that much experience. That's pretty remarkable. There's a grind. Everybody's you're the head coach in a Big 12, amazing institution, right? Like the University of Utah is an amazing academic and athletic institution, one of the best in the country. You didn't start there. So that there's a grind that people don't see along that career path. When you were going through that, you know, lowest paid assistant coach on your team all the way up to now being the head coach at the University of Utah, what kind of decision making were you intentional about the next jobs you were going to take, or was it just kind of opportunity presented itself and you moved yourself along?
Yeah, you know, I think going back to when I was the manager at Hawaii Pacific University, you know, some things that it becomes who you are. And I'm so thankful for those opportunities. But for those of people who understand Hawaii and Hawaii Pacific University, we played our games in Blaisdell Arena, but we practiced at Mid-Pacific High School. And Mid-Pacific High School has their own high school teams. So we didn't get on the floor till 7 p.m., 8 p.m. at night during the course of your preseason and then regular season practice schedule. The Blaisdell Center hosts concerts, events all through the year. So you had to get, you know, your game schedule. And if the facility wasn't available, then you'd play at the high school gym. So we didn't have the facilities at the NAIA level at Hawaii Pacific University, but what that did do, it was something where our managers had to make sure that all the basketballs, everything, coolers, gear, everything had to make sure it showed up for practice or games. You also had uniforms that you had to take care of and wash. I still remember Coach Solito, Tony Solito, he took home practice uniforms and he washed them himself. Amazing. Yeah. Still to this day. So all these little lessons are kind of being thrown at you, and just you start to hold on to them, and it becomes the fabric of who you are. So the humility that the head coach showed, he would take home laundry. He would mop the floors before practice. We would try to take the mop away from him. He's like, no, I got this. I got to get my steps in. And that was before Apple Watches. Yeah. So, and then all the just time management and being able, if the responsibility was given to you, that's the job you're going to do, and you're going to do it to the best of your ability. You fast forward, and my first gig with Vince Gu at the University of Hawaii, obviously doing all the managerial duties. We practice a lot of times in Clum Gym, which the floor had to be mopped. So if we started practice at 6:30 a.m., I'm in there at 5:30 a.m. making sure I'm mopping and making sure the floor dries. I'm also making sure everything is ready to go for practice. I also started to break down film. And you'll understand, breaking down film wasn't on the computer. It was 3 VHSs with the original on the top and offense and defense on the bottom. And you just make sure you have the right remote and you're hitting the right buttons.
That's right. VCRs, these kids don't even know what a VCR is anymore, right? With VHS, it was crazy. You know, you just said something too about uniforms. I'd forgotten about this. I started coaching in JUCO, and then I moved to big time D3, and I packed the wrong jerseys for the semifinal game of the conference tournament. And fortunately, they were Vegas gold, and the other team was white, so it worked out. But the panic that went through my brain, the look on my head coach's face when he saw our guys take their shooting shirts off was one of the worst things that ever happened to me in my entire life. But it's not all the kind of the big picture, big fun, glamorous, what everybody thinks it is, right? There's all the work that goes into it. And I think something else that you said, I'd like to drill down on. Young coaches out there listening right now, you have the idea of wanting to move from low level to whether you want to go from being a freshman coach to being on the varsity staff. Do your job to the best of your ability, right? Whatever that is, there's no job too big, too small. Do that job to the best of your ability.
Yep. And I feel that is something, I mean, that has served me throughout my coaching career. It's, you have to start somewhere, and whatever it is, how many responsibilities you have, you just be the all-star in what you're given. And then guess what? That now grows, and now you're being given more responsibility. And I think that was something that, again, back then I might not have known what I was doing, but it just it made me who I am. And there's no task too small. Obviously there's some things that only I have to do, and now I have to kind of be on top of my time management. But I think a lot of that goes back to how I started. I had to be organized. I had to have my time management in order, and you have to have the humility to be able to do anything that was asked of you. And so still do that.
Add value. That from whatever position you're in, add value in whatever way you can. And the beauty of athletics is that competition fosters the ability to stand out if you have talent and you combine work ethic with that talent.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's funny because I'm just reminiscing now, but mopping the floor at 5:30, I wanted to get shots up with the players and all those things. That wasn't my responsibility, but I made sure I carved up enough time for it where I did everything I needed to so I could stay after practice. On the day off, if they wanted to shoot, I could go shoot. Now those young ladies were my friends as well, so it was easy. But I also got a glimpse back then with even player development, because back then summer access wasn't granted. So as a manager, I got to play pickup with them. I got to go work out during the summer. And that just really locked in the love I had for the game of basketball and working with young women in this profession. And that was the start of it.
Yeah, it's great. So you're in a completely different space now, right? The chair that you sit in, the building that you walk into, the paycheck you get on a bi-weekly basis are all a little bit different. But it all happens because of, you got to have some talent. You got to work hard, and you combine those things, you get where you're going to go. What was it like last year, right? You're now the head coach, and you're going into your first full year as a head coach. You wake up one day, and was it 4 games already into the season?
Yeah,
it wasn't like you were in the preseason. You wake up one day, and you went from being the associate head coach at the University of Utah to the head coach at the University of Utah. What was that feeling like for you? Was it a pinch me moment, or was it it's time to go to work? Or both?
It was a little bit of both. And I'm going to go a little bit further back because we had returned home from Northwestern, a game in which we lost on the road. It was a game where you'd appreciate this. At the end of the third quarter, a fire alarm went off and the doors open and the Chicago wind is just blowing in. And so it was just a bizarre, weird game. But we ended up losing. So the way my mind operates is just like, how do we right the ship? We truly believe that was a game we could have pulled out had certain things gone differently. how are we going to get back to business? And there's a level of toughness that I thought we lacked in that game. So I'm at practice. The next time we practice, I think it's a Saturday morning. And I'm on one. And Lynn and I, we balance each other really well. And she's just ho-hum smiling. And she's just letting me go to town. And every little thing I'm blowing up on. And just the players are just like, oh, Gavin's being Gavin. Like, I get it. And so she says, hey, after practice, I need to talk to you. Immediately, I'm like, oh, man, did I go too far? Like, I'm being called into the principal's office. Like, I should probably – and I probably was like, yeah, I probably was a little too hard on a couple players. So, all right, cool. So I sit in the office, and she says, all right, I'm about to this is going to knock your socks off. And I'm like, okay. I just took the head coaching job with the LA Sparks. And I just was like, I stood up, gave her a hug, and then it was kind of a numb, like, sit back down. Okay, what does that mean? Are you finishing the season here? Do you have to leave? Like, what's going on? And so she said, nope, I have to leave. There's stuff I need to, obligations I have to fulfill. But Mark and Charmel want to talk to you. And, I think all signs point to, I think they want you to take over. Now, thoughts go through your mind. All right, interim tag, finish off the year, whatever it may be, man. Like, I love what I do. I love being here. I think we have a great team. I don't have a desire to coach in the WNBA. So I'm like, okay, cool. So on Sunday, I meet with Mark and Charmel. Now, we haven't told our team this yet. So everything is really, those non-disclosure agreements that they, enter into, everything's got to be hush hush. We play on Monday. And we are planning to tell the team on Tuesday. So I go in to Mark and Charmel's office, and Mark, I still remember it clear as day. Mark says, so I guess Lynn's told you already, how'd she tell you? And I just kind of laughed, and I said, well, she just ripped the Band-Aid off. She just basically jumped into it. And he says, well, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off. You're our guy. You're our new head coach here at the University of Utah. And I just had like a big, humbling, like numb feeling. And I took a seat on the couch, and I broke down a little bit. Like, I was not expecting that. And, gave him a big hug. Yeah. Gave him a big hug and just, whew, okay. And now it got to, okay, what's next? What do we have to do? First and foremost, our players, their worlds are going to be rocked. I mean, mine's was, and at the time, I'm a 47-year-old. Well, here's 18 to 22-year-olds, and we had a great senior class who they're looking at their last year of eligibility to be this big year to kind of close out what they've left in this program. And here, an opportunity that came up that was too good to pass up for Lynn. And so they were now the number one priority in our program moving forward. And that's kind of how we looked at every decision we made in the next few days and the next few weeks.
What did you learn about yourself, about coaching, that making that shift so quickly? And then you get to the end of the season, right? It's just kind of drinking through a fire hose probably of changing, and you just get into it. What at the end of the year, when you reflected, what did you learn about yourself, about that process that is going to help you going forward?
There was a ton. I would say the number one thing that hit me, and it was when I was given the job, was the fact that people are watching. So again, it goes back to do your job, be the best person you can be doing that job. Like you said, add value. And then again, just kind of on the college campus, like lose yourself within the athletic department, get to know people, make sure they know who you are. And I did that just because I'm a people person. And I mean, I can talk to a wall if I'm alone in a room by myself. Like, that is kind of who I am. So that was something like, people are watching, people are paying attention. So that was something that jumped out right away. And it was very, I was grateful and I was humbled by it, but that was number one. Then number two, one of the biggest takeaways was I've always thought I was an organized coach. And you look at my desk and it might look like chaos, but there's an organized chaos. There's another level of organization that needs to be had by a head coach or a CEO who's running something. There was another level that I had not had experience in and with. And so that was part of the getting comfortable during the course of the basketball season. And then the third thing is I was fortunate to have a great staff. We were shorthanded, but I had a great staff. And then I have since then been able to plug in some holes with some great people. So that was the third thing that I feel is so valuable. We as a program could not have accomplished what we did last year without our support system and our support staff. Now that we have all these seats taken care of and the right people in them, I'm excited about getting into the future with this staff and our program. But it is the people you're surrounded by. You've got to be able to trust them, and you've got to be able to delegate. I wouldn't give me an A in delegation. I might not even give me a B. It was average, and that's something I have to learn to get better with, and I know I will. And that's just something I had to reflect, look back, and learn from.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point too, because you have to delegate. But if you're a high school coach out there listening to this, right, one of your priorities has to be to coach your coaches and make sure that when you do delegate, that the message that you want delivered and the way the methodology, the terminology, everything that you do as a coach translates to your assistants, to your people, all the way down the food chain, so that your players aren't getting something less because now you're the head coach, right? It's a really important thing for young people to learn.
100%. And I feel, to be candid, I definitely missed the mark in that area because there was so much happening. Morgan Bailey from the team down south, she's in year 1 with our coaching staff. I hired Ryan Larson away from Wyoming. He shows up in December. And I joke with Ryan because every week he was like, hey, let's carve out some time. Let's talk about our playbook and our terminology. And I'm like, yeah, let's schedule it.
Let's do that.
Never happened. Yeah, it never happened.
Yeah.
And so it is valuable. And I think this off season has been something that is going to work wonders for our staff because we've done that. We've established our terminology. We've talked about it. I'm going to have an offensive assistant. I have now defensive coordinators and a defensive manager. We meet more. We're talking basketball more. And that's what everybody loves to do anyway. So yeah, to that point, I think that's exactly so true. You've got to get everybody kind of on the same page, using the same terminology. That way, that united front and that united messaging to your players is taking place.
Yeah. And so when I came to Utah, for those out there that don't know, I spent 8 years over there and loved it. And now my daughter just dropped her off as a freshman on campus there. It's a crazy, surreal circle of life. But when I got hired, Elaine Elliott, who's a legendary coach and one of the best people I've ever been around, we spent the first 2 weeks or so when I first got there and not going through her brain, going through mine. And she tried to extract every single thing that she could from me to then, and not to necessarily change everything, but just, can we make something a little bit better? Is there a better way to say something? And literally every aspect of the game on both sides of the ball. And I think, for young coaches out there, you take over a program, you always just want to be from your own brain. But when you hire people, try to get as much from them as you possibly can. Ultimately, you're the one that makes the decision and what it looks like, but get as much information from the people around you as you can.
100%. I think that is very important. And that's a way to keep not only your coaches with support staff, but like they're engaged.
Yes.
They feel invested in, and now they're going to be inspired to perform even more. That's something we've been doing a lot more. We're going to, we want to continue to evolve. We don't want to just hang our hat on what we've done in the past. Like, we're going to continue to do that, but moving forward, we want to continue to analyze and self-reflect. What can we do better? How can we utilize our personnel now? The game is kind of going towards a 4-guard lineup. Yeah. Well, how do we maximize our personnel and do that? So we spent a lot of time this offseason, and I'm excited to see where we can go with that.
So the landscape of college athletics, not just basketball, but college athletics has shifted tremendously over the last 3, 4, 5 years, right? But we have the transfer portal and the NIL, and whenever you throw a grenade into something without guardrails on it, you're going to have some issues, right? And it's seems like they're starting to get a few more guardrails around it, and it's going to end up, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. How has recruiting changed for you and his staff, if at all? Maybe it hasn't, but is there a different way that you evaluate, because you got to bring in young people, but you also know you have the portal there? What is that both short and long-term approach to recruiting change or difference for you guys as a staff?
At the end of the day, the people we recruit, that's not going to change. We want to make sure we protect our culture at all costs. We want to bring in good people first, good students, and then obviously they're here for a reason to play basketball. So that's not going to change. But what I have seen change for us is, we're still very relationship based, and we're going to pour into kids through the recruiting process. We at Utah over the last 10 years have done a phenomenal job identifying kids early and building that relationship over the years. Well, that's kind of now shortened. Like, I can't foresee us, right now we're signing our 2026 class. I'm starting to talk to kids from the 27 class. In the past, we'd have our head coach talk to the kids from the 28, 29, 30 and get them here on unofficial visit and be offered scholarships. I don't know what our roster is going to look like anymore. Like, I would love to say we are going to do the best that we can. And because we have such a great university, we love Salt Lake City, we have a great basketball program, they're going to all want to stay. Yeah, the numbers, and they tell me something different. On average, 1 to 2 kids transfer every year for whatever reason, right? So we know that the roster and the makeup of that roster is going to be different. So it's going to be harder to look out and try to foresee what you're going to need. But at the end of the day, what's made us really well are those relationships. And so we're going to continue to do that. It just might not be as far out anymore. And then with the transfer portal, a couple people leave, well, then you're going to be bringing in a couple more people. And that's where, for me, I have to wear that general manager hat along with our recruiting coordinator. I sometimes bring up topics and scenarios that I might have an idea of where we want to go, but I want to make sure that they're thinking the same thing, because, you have the transfer portal. On top of that, now you have revenue sharing, in which you have to kind of divvy up. So there are a lot more challenges. It's no longer that player fits our program, let's get her here. Well, that's great. That the main thing's still going to be the main thing, but now there are a lot of other things that we've got to make sure we are aware of, and we tend to through that entire process.
So you brought up retaining your own players, and I just call it, you got to, recruiting really begins once they get on campus. It always has, and now it's even more so, right? Like, is making sure that you're constantly have that thought process of the experience that your current players has is going to go a long way in the kind of player you're going to get the next time around. And so constantly providing that great experience. How do you think it's a good thing, the transfer portal? I love it for kids to be able to move. I never thought it made sense that coaches could go take another job, get paid extra money to leave somewhere, and a kid could, if they were going to leave, had to sit out a year, and a coach didn't have to sit out a year if they decided to leave. So I think it's good. What are you guys doing for retention? How do you think about it? Has it changed, or is it just we got to continue to build relationships with every single kid that we have in the program?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that changed, and it probably was, it was before COVID, because we did have a couple freshmen leave. Freshmen who were all Pac-12, and then they ended up leaving for whatever reason. In the past, and you can attest to this too, is like, you lose your game in the NCAA tournament or whenever it may be, season's over. Coaches, everybody, unplug, go away. Let's come back for spring ball and let's start training again. So everybody did that. And then you had player meetings afterwards. That changed. We have player meetings when our season's done. Like, we are like, when's your player meeting? In the next couple of days. Like, we are now touching base with our players. We're re-recruiting. If they have any questions, concerns moving forward within the program, we talk it out. And we operate in truth. And that's a process of earning their trust. And that's something that we dive into, and it develops over the years. So we have those conversations. Some are tougher than others, but we all operate in truth. And so there's nothing in terms of being led us down a path that's not going to be what's best for them or our program. So that's what the biggest adjustment has been, is now we have those end of the year meetings pretty quickly at the conclusion of the season. And then that allows both our program or that player looking to transfer the amount of time, and it's not awkward. I get a kick out of, reading on social media, that player leaves the program, they get kicked out of the locker room, they have to clean out their locker. Like, I mean, come on, really, what are we doing? Yeah, you can shoot. Just if we're having practice, you can't practice with us anymore. If we're in there lifting in the weight room, you got to have a different time to do so. Yes, you have all the time with academic services. Yes, you still have a meal plan. And that's something that over the years has just gotten to be the norm now. And then, the transfer portal, whether I like it, don't like it, it is what it is. We've benefited from it, getting the likes of Alyssa Peely.
She's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. So we benefited from it. We've had Megan Huff, we've had Denisha Provo, we've had a lot of people that have come into our program through the transfer portal. This year we have a Kyra Evans who transferred from Michigan. She'll be healthy and ready to play. So it's been good for us, so I'm not going to knock it. Now with revenue sharing, the only thing I'd love people to consider is, as a coach might have a buyout if they go from one job to the next. Will buyouts now become a thing for student athletes? Don't know.
It's gonna evolve, right? That the one thing is, and you said this earlier. You didn't use the exact term, but we always talk about adapt or die, right? And so you just got to be adaptable. And you said evolving, but it's same idea, right? Where you got to adapt, or else you're going to get passed by, and it's here to stay. Yeah,
100%. And we're going to learn how to navigate through it. And again, it's before it was you transferred, you had to sit out a year. That was a good thing too, because the kid got to develop and understand terminology, offense, schemes, all those things. But now it's like play right away. So for us, if we lose a valuable member of our program to graduation, injury, or transfer, now there's not that, okay, we have to rebuild. Rebuild, you can rebuild by reloading. Yes. And that's kind of, we like to use that term a lot more around here.
That's great. So I'm not going to put you on the spot with NIL, because I know those things are, private conversations. But what I would like to do when talking about it, Nico Imaleva, I know I just got his name wrong, but the big story, right? And I just read another article about him this morning on ESPN. But when advice to families, as they're going through either the recruiting process as high school students, may not be happening as early as it once did, as you just talked about, or I'm in the transfer portal and I'm going to a new place. What advice would you give to families who are going through the recruiting process, have a kid that's, high tier, high level kid that is an NIL caliber student athlete? What advice would you give to families as they're trying to navigate that with their young person finding a school and going through that process?
Yeah, I would say invest in a notebook or a journal and write things down as the process unfolds. And you have to, again, keeping the main thing. Start with, what are your non-negotiables? What must you have? Is it the position you're being recruited to play? Is it the offense? Is it the location of the school, conference, whatever? For every recruit, it's going to be different, but let's list your non-negotiables. Then let's list a bunch of things that you are willing to do, or you're willing to look at a program because. And then on the other end, these are the things that I do not want and I cannot see myself doing or going. And then as you operate through that, revenue sharing is a big thing. The market is the market, and nobody knows it. Nobody knows what school A will pay for this guard versus school B and C, because they have two seniors ahead of that recruit. So the market is the market, and it's all unknown. So at the end of the day, be very cautious of just allowing the biggest number in terms of dollar sign to direct your decision. At the end of the day, you're going to get a good piece of revenue share regardless. So let's make sure you don't compromise those non-negotiables that you are going to make your college experience the best experience that, we all talk about. Like, you've been there, you've done it. I still love it. These young women from ages 18 to 22, 23, like getting invitations to their weddings, birth announcements. A couple years ago, that Elite 8 team was honored in the Hall of Fame here at the University of Utah. Seeing the camaraderie that everybody has, coaches, players, there's no making that up. That's real. That's something that, again, don't lose vision of that and what the college experience really entails. Because with revenue sharing, guess what? You're still going to maximize and cash in on what you're able to do. And it's a great time to be an athlete in the NCAA and women's basketball in particular. So just make sure that you're keeping the main thing. So your experience is a great one.
Yeah, finding that right fit. And I love your idea about the journal. I always had kids 3x5 note card, but I'm old, right? So a journal's better, but 3x5 note card. And every time you visit, right, making 5 things that I loved about the place. And then on the back end of it, what don't I like? And making sure that there's a objective thought process when you go through it, instead of just a feel or a dollar sign next to it. I think it's writing stuff down for young people and families to go back through is really important.
100%. And, some of these student athletes can earn life-changing money, and that's amazing. You brought up the quarterback situation, like, good for you. Like, I have nothing but, like, good for you. You maximized, you cashed in on your value. Good for you. I just hope that, for players who choose to prioritize that, they still get the experience that sometimes is priceless for a lot of us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right. So let's talk about youth sports. You've got 2 of them, right? Are they 14 and 12? Is that right?
13 and 11, 2 girls.
13 and 11. God, I screwed that up. Okay. So you got 13 and 11. They're right in the middle of the thick of it. I think you said that multi-sport athletes. Now, we talk a lot about on the show, we've interviewed people who have foundations that are trying to help the system grow, and really smart people are thinking about this, which is great. But I always bring up the youth sports system, and they always come back to me and say, there is no youth sports system in our country. It is just a hodgepodge of all different sports trying to do different things. As you're parenting young kids through this process now, how do you think about your kids' youth sports journey as you and your wife are going through this process with your children?
Yeah, we talk about this quite a bit, more often than people might think, my wife and I, because our childhoods were a lot different. Like, we had, it was baseball season from these months of the year. Then it went to basketball season. Then it went to whatever the next sport was, but there was a cycle. Like, I played soccer growing up, I ended up moving on from that. But I feel like a lot of those opportunities now, it's rec leagues, and then it goes straight into club ball. So a lot of people, if you're not at that club level, whether it be soccer, volleyball, basketball, lacrosse, whatever it may be, what are you doing? And that's where it becomes a little harder to navigate through. Fortunately for us in our area where we live, we do have those opportunities. They have those bantam leagues for basketball. They're kind of like high school feeder programs, which I have no idea what high schools our girls are going to go to. But, we have one our youngest plays for Skyline, our oldest plays for Olympus, 2 rival high schools. They play, one of them plays Highland lacrosse. The other one plays, I think, Brighton lacrosse. Like, we're all over the map, right? At the end of the day, my wife and I have committed to, we want them doing something. Yeah. So right now they're running cross country with their school. They're playing basketball with their bantam teams, as well as lacrosse. And we will navigate through and be there for them whenever we need to. And then the other thing that we try to do is, luckily we have a great facility here at the University of Utah, and I can take the girls in to shoot at any time. And we want them to. We want them to love the game. We want them to, whatever they decide to do, have some passion and enthusiasm for it, and not feel like you had to be there. An example is softball. I wanted them to play. And that was during COVID. I bought the net, I bought the tee, I started warming up, I started talking to Coach Amy Hogue and how do we do this and that. And that lasted one season. And they were like, we're done. And I'm like, man, like I had to scramble. Like, can I turn this hitting net into a golf net for me now? I don't know what. Of
course you can.
Be resourceful. Of course I can. So again, let them find kind of what they want to do. And as long as they're passionate and enthusiastic about it, like we're going to be there supporting them along the way.
I had the opportunity to, I think I talked about this off air, but interviewed Darren Sutton here recently, son of Don Sutton, and they're deeply involved in the evaluation process of young baseball players, all the way from 10 years old, all the way through high school and college. And we talked about scouts are always watching, right? They're watching you and they're watching your parents. Advice for parents when you go sit in the stands as a parent watching your kid play. I'm guessing you're not screaming and yelling at the officials and screaming and yelling at the coaches, right? Like and as a coach, if you're recruiting a kid and you see that, what sort of red flag is that for you as someone that's recruiting somebody like that? And what advice would you give parents of how to manage themselves on the sidelines?
Yeah, I think, when we're recruiting, I truly believe you become a product of your environment, good or bad. And so, if you're seeing somebody's parent just really, insert themselves in not a good way, there are some red flags. I think you can be passionate about, your child, how they're performing, your team success. But at the end of the day, like you want them to focus on everything in between the lines and not be looking over their shoulder, looking at you, because that's distracting or taking them away from their team. So I feel it's a balance that you just kind of got to navigate through. Officials, again, my dad was an official. So even now when I talk to officials, I've been told the feedback I get is they appreciate the way I talk to them. Well,
I've been told the opposite. So just good for you, because it's one of the things I regret. If I could go back, I would have a completely different relationship with the refs.
Yes. Yeah. And so as parents, like a lot of them are volunteering. A lot of them are not making a lot of money doing so. Just keeping that in mind. And then the one thing that really drives me crazy is like when they start yelling at the coaches. It's like, well, nobody's perfect. And I think you just got to be there to support your child. Your child, whether it's a bad loss, they didn't get to play down the end of the game, they missed a shot. Like they're going to need you for support. They're not going to need you to pass blame. It's a great way for us to teach them some empathy, teach them that you're not always going to win. I still remember Brea, our oldest daughter, when we lost in the NCAA tournament at Texas, like she was in tears. And I'm like, sweetheart, we had a phenomenal year. Like losing is a part of it. Whenever you enter into a contest, mathematically, you have a 50% chance that you're going to win or you're going to lose. If you're not willing to lose, you shouldn't play the game. And we just got to teach that to them. Like losing is a part of it. How you handle it. You're going to be classy and you're going to be respectful. You're going to be a good sport, win or lose. And at the end of the day, especially the age that my children are, like, have fun, man. Like we always tell them, have fun. Did you have fun? I love watching you play. I love doing that. Then as they get a little older and they get a little bit more competitive, then we'll chime in a little bit. There'll be a time and place to do so. But I think at the end of the day, be supportive of the coach, the program, and the team.
I'm going to piggyback on what you just said, because this is my opportunity to get on my soapbox. Having been involved in youth sports now for as the last 10 years, after coaching collegiately and professionally for 19, the kids want to hear what you just said. And there's tons of studies out there. I love you and I love watching you play. And we put a rule in place that you can't talk about the game for an hour after the game with your kid when all that emotion is going. And that ride home can be a really, really important place for them to learn that you love them and you love watching them compete, right? Not that their coach sucks, not that they had a bad play, not that Susie or Johnny is getting more time than they just want to hear, I love you and I love watching you play. And then the other part that you said that I really love is for youth sports, which is what and we really want this podcast to help young people on their journey. It is should be the safest place to learn how to fail, get back up, practice again, go perform, knowing you might fail again, but having the courage to get up and do that again. And if we take that part away from youth sports, what is the value to all of that 97% of them that never end up playing Division I athletics?
Yes, that is huge right there. Having the just the willingness to fall short and then getting back up and let's do it again. Like that is so true. Those are things that we talked about it earlier, like the fabric of who that young person is going to become as an adult.
Yeah.
Those are things that no matter what they decide to do, whether it's a stay-at-home mom, start their own business, do whatever they want in whatever sector, they're going to be a successful person because of that. 100%.
Yeah. Let's talk about spouses real quick here. I know I could not have done anything in my life without my wife. I think it was, I flew 239,000 miles on Delta my last year at Utah, and I spent 160 nights in hotel rooms. And so the having a supportive spouse, that is such an important thing. And for all the and it's not just at the collegiate or professional level, right? There's time invested in youth sports. It becomes consuming. How important is that relationship for you, and having that that wife that you have, being able to support what your dream is and the journey you're on?
Yeah, I feel I've won the lottery in that area because, Karen and I both, we have our own love and basketball story. We met through coaching. She was at Sac State and I was at Idaho State. Then we got the opportunity to coach together for 3 years at the University of Idaho. And then since then, she's given up coaching as we started our family. And it's been so huge and important that the spouse that I have understands the demands of the job. She also knows that whether she likes it or not, there are some sacrifices that have to be made. And there are times in which I am going to miss. So because she is so supportive and because she is so understanding, I don't abuse that. And I do my job to try to make sure I don't miss birthdays. I make sure if I'm doing the scheduling, I'm making sure that I'm available for this or that. I try to incorporate them as much as I can with road trips. If it's a bus trip, if it is a trip during the holidays, our administration allows things like that to happen. Postseason play, they're on every trip that they can make. So it is very important. It is the backbone of a coach is their spouse, and 100%. The other day I had to kind of do a little bit of she calls it mommy Uber, but I had to do that. And I'm just like, whoa, I always knew you had the toughest job, but now I had to live it. And it absolutely is so true. And I keep reminding our girls is that you guys are so lucky to have a mom that you have. And it's just because she does so much to let everything at home be taken care of. And it allows me to pour into our student athletes, our coaching staff, and whatever needs to be done. But I think my biggest advice for coaches is kind of set guidelines. I try not to do any work at home. I try not to work out at home. I try to work out during the course of the day when I can steal 30 minutes. I try not to do phone calls at home. And it's not an absolute. You have to at times. But just be aware of some of the, the ground rules that you lay down so you can spend and be present with your family. And then when you're at work, you're at work. And so you can just kind of manage all of that.
I sucked at it. I was terrible at it. And
it's hard.
I didn't realize I was terrible at it until I got out of coaching. That first year out, when I was just going to take a year away, I realized I was a bad dad and a bad husband, and what kids need is your time. And there's a book out there. I had never thought about having this conversation. But for coaches out there and your spouses, we do so much, right? Like it's hard to be a coach. It's even harder, I think, to be the spouse of a coach. And there's a book called Fair Play that's all about how to make sure both both people feel fair in the relationship and dividing up the work. And even if you just read it and realize how much the other person is doing, it's been unbelievable for me and my wife as we've gone beyond. I wished I'd have read the damn thing when I was at Utah, right? Like I recommend it highly to anyone out there, because you just can't do what you're doing if you have a family without that spouse.
Yeah, and I think it's important to, and again, I'm learning. By no mistake am I like a professional at this, but like we're gonna go Labor Day weekend. We're gonna go down, take a little last family vacation together, and then the grind really starts.
Yeah.
But you also got to look at a calendar. We as organized leaders of programs, you should have somewhat of a calendar and kind of looking ahead. Well, what vacation time works for your family? Like put it on the calendar, and then you can have your support staff and everything else revolve around there. So one, you're not neglecting your players. People are here on campus if anything should happen. And then everybody gets to kind of refill their battery of why we do things, the things that really matter. And so I encourage all coaches to try to do that, man.
Yeah, it's super important. So let's talk about your team. You like your team. I think you told me you had 6 returners or 7 returners, and maybe 50-50, close to 50-50 new and returners.
Yeah.
What do you like about them? How do you think you're going to play? Why should fans be excited about coming to watch you guys this year?
Yeah, I think they're going to really enjoy the newcomers that we've added to our program. They're a very talented group. I believe it was one of the recruiting publications, a top 15 recruiting class.
Congrats.
Thank
hard.
you.
It's hard.
It is hard. And we've, like I said, we've identified kids early on and we've invested in them and we've gotten them to the point. Even so, when Lynn took the job with the Sparks, I had to re-recruit them and get those recommitments, which they fully were bought into the program here at Utah. So we love that about them. I feel our fans are going to love them. And then our fans are also going to love the returners that we have coming back. Maddie Wilkie, forever in Utah women's basketball lore, hitting a half-court shot at the buzzer in overtime to beat the team down south. She'll never, when she, is done playing, will never probably have to buy a drink at a bar somewhere in Salt Lake City.
You can't make that stuff up, right? It's just that rivalry is unbelievable.
It is. Yeah. And then we have the return of Lonnie White, somebody who was a fan favorite before she transferred to Virginia Tech, and now she's coming back. And then we have a couple people coming off injury in Kyra Evans and Grace Foster. And then we have, Brooke Walker, Reese Ross. We have a lot of talented players that are going to make it an exciting season for Utah basketball. The things that we have been, known for over the years, we're still going to be a very efficient offensive program. We're going to be a high scoring program. We're going to shoot a lot of threes and we're going to share the basketball. I do think this year we're going to have an opportunity to maybe get a little bit more up tempo on defense, apply a little bit more pressure, 94 feet, create some easy buckets via turnovers, and steals and whatnot. So I'm excited about how we can grow in that area. And at the end of the day, as you know, the Huntsman Center is a hard place to play for visiting teams. So we're going to try to get that elevation factor to be a kind of feather in our cap and utilize that to kind of wear down our opponents. But it should be a fun year. We have a lot of good teams coming in this non-conference season. We're going to test ourselves so we're ready for Big 12 play.
I can attest to the elevation factor. I just moved my daughter into the dorms and have been at the sea level here in Oregon for the last 10 years, and it kicked my ass, man. I just moving into the dorms. So it is a big deal.
It is real.
Yeah. Big 12, some of the teams for fans out there, you're not brand new to the league, but it's still, with the changing, what are some of the really good programs that folks should be excited that they get to watch that they maybe haven't been exposed to over the years?
Yeah, I think, right off the bat, just based on last season, everybody's going to remember the TCU run, the Baylor run. Those were the top 2 teams in our conference last year. They're always going to be good. Great coaches, great women's basketball programs. And again, the R word, they just reload, right? That's something that every year you can count on them. Iowa State, Bill Finley, he is like the godfather of Big 12 basketball right now. And he has a phenomenal program down there in Ames. We played there this past season, and man, it was a great environment. And they're going to be really good. We get to host them here in the Huntsman Center. Kansas had a young team last year. They're going to be really good. Somebody like similar to us in Kansas State, they lost a lot. So, they've got to reload, and they're going to put forward a really good team as well. We got to go to Manhattan this year. And then, the foes that we know from our Pac-12 days, Colorado, Arizona State, and obviously the team down south. We're going to get a lot of good basketball played in the Huntsman Center this year, and a lot of familiar names that I think our fans are really going to get excited about. And as we kind of continue through the Big 12, it's going to be interesting to see what rivalries other than the in-state one start to take hold. Because, in the Pac-12, we respected Colorado so much. We're friends with their coaching staff. So it didn't feel as much as a rivalry as maybe they wanted it to be.
You didn't have the hatred boiling over.
No, so it wasn't. And so that's where it's kind of, now we have our in-state rival. So that stuff is real. Like
it is absolutely real. I tried it. I live here in Oregon right now. I don't think they call it the Civil War anymore, it's what I grew up with was the Civil War rivalry in the state. And then I moved to Utah and experienced that Holy War. It is something that is pretty unique in college athletics. Obviously that close together, a little bit of religion mixed into the mix, and at least the week you're playing, a deep hatred for and that's pretty healthy in sports.
It is really good. And again, there's respect there at the end of the day. We respect what they do. I think they respect what we do. But yeah, it gets intense, and we take it to extremes here. So like I joke around, and this is a story I'll share with you guys. It's pretty funny. So when we got here to Utah, I was like, I'm all in. Like, we came from Pacific, who was in the West Coast Conference with the team down south. So I came here and we're like, we're not writing in blue pen. Like, no blue Expo pens, no blue pens. We're writing in black, red, or any other color that you want to write in. So if we showed up on the road and there was a blue pen, we would ask our managers, we're not writing in blue. Can you go get another color pen? So we really bought into that. I got a text about a month ago from Lynn Roberts. They're about to play the New York Liberty in New York. She goes to write on the board, blue pen. She asks her manager to go get another one. And she texts me, she says, you're going to appreciate this, but I have our manager go get me a black or red pen. Some habits die hard. And I loved it. I was like, yes.
So you'll love this, man. My daughter was right around 2, and broke her arm. And we took her to the doctor to get her cast on, and they brought blue out, and she's like, we don't wear BIU blue, and please get me a different color of cast. So they brought her a pinkish red cast for her to wear. It starts early and lasts a long time.
I love it. Oh, it is fun. It is a good rivalry. And, we have somebody on staff in Morgan Bailey, phenomenal coach. She's going to be a great head coach one of these days. But, it's part of it. And she is all in with the red now. It's fun to see that transformation happen.
Yeah, it's cool. So, Gavin, thanks so much. You've given me an hour of your time. I know you're busy.
Absolutely.
And I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed chatting with you. I do this with every guest. So this last thing we'll do here today is I want you to go back in time to your 10, 11, 12-year-old self in Hawaii, going through this crazy journey that you've been on. What, if you could tap yourself on your young self on the shoulder and give yourself some advice, what advice would you give yourself for this journey you've been on?
I would say trust the process. And when you see doors close, just take a look around, because there's a window open. And I don't think you should ever let no's, rejection letters stop you from pursuing your dream. Just continue forward and find a way. If it's something that you love doing, then it's worth going through some dark moments or some hard times to get to the other side. And then I would also say, spend as much time with your mom and dad and your family as possible. For me, being away from the islands now, luckily technology is FaceTime, but FaceTime doesn't,
It's not a hug.
no, it's not. And so I still to this day miss my mom and dad, my sister, my nieces, nephews, cousins, uncles, aunties, everybody. Like, I miss them to death. I didn't get to get back. The family didn't get to get back to Hawaii. So I would just say cherish your family time as much as you can. And then again, don't let closed doors stop you. Look for that window.
I love that. All right, man. Well, here's the most important part of the show. You got to tell me a dad joke. So I'm a big dad joke guy. Everybody's got one. So if you don't have one, I've got a full book of them over here that I can pull from. But I'm guessing you've got children in this realm. So I'm
yes. Ready. Okay. So like I said, it's funny because you have so many of them and then you draw blank when you're called upon. But I do remember this one. Okay. How do penguins build their home?
How do penguins build their home? I don't know.
You lose it together.
Yeah, you know what? That's hilarious. So I just pulled that one out of my book. So the day that I had one guest that didn't have a dad joke.
Oh, no way.
I opened my, so here's, if you're looking, this is my my tome of dad jokes here.
I love it.
If and someone came on and didn't have it, and that's the one I told him, and I'd already forgotten it. So thank you for bringing it back to my mind.
Oh, that is good. Yeah, dad jokes. We on our floor here in our staff, we are not ashamed. We are not too cool for school. We will let bad or good dad joke, let them rip. We let it go. The other one I like, and I think you'd appreciate this, is there are some like Chuck Norris books. If you ever look at some of those,
yes,
amazing.
They're unbelievable. That, and I'm not on social media anymore. I try to stay off it, but my wife shows me, and it's this two dads. It's called Doc Talk.
Yes, Doc Talk. Logan.
Yes. Oh my God, they're amazing. I don't know how they don't laugh. They just sit there back and forth. And if you're having a bad day, go find Doc Talk and just watch that for about 5 minutes.
100%. And that's a great team bonding activity, because we were talking about doing that with like who lasts first, like points at our team retreat. So that's funny.
That's awesome. All right, Gavin. Well, thank you so much for taking time out. I've really enjoyed it. And hopefully we can check in with you again as the season goes on. And we'll be rooting for you, man.
Anytime. Thank you very much.
Welcome back to the show. Anthony Leverett's here, just finishing up my conversation with Gavin Petersen, the head women's basketball coach at the University of Utah. Really enjoyed chatting with him. Quite a journey that he's been on and going, his 27th year in coaching. And suddenly last year he gets his first opportunity as a head coach. And I think a lot of value in what he learned and what he shared. And I want to drill down on two big things. Number one, add value. And this is in everything that you do, whether you are a player, you are a young coach, you are a manager, you're in corporate America and you want to move up. Figure out a way, number one, to do the job that's assigned to you to the very best of your ability. And in the athletics world, if you do that, there is opportunity to move up. That is, it's one of the coolest things about athletics is that environment of competitiveness and everybody recognizing talent and hard work. There's going to be an opportunity for you to move up. Then once you've done your job to the best of your ability, figure out other things that you can do. Ask for more responsibility. Drive the person around you crazy if you have to, trying to get more responsibility, as long as you're not taking away from the job that you're supposed to do first. Do that first. And if you get that done, add value in any other way that you can. I thought it was a great point. Second thing, and I think a lot of coaches struggle with this, is learning how to delegate responsibility. And especially for assistant coaches that love coaching, being on the floor all the time, being in every single individual, being a part of every single thing that you do, learning how to delegate. Part of that process, though, is making sure that your coaches know what they're supposed to do, and have the ability to deliver your message, your methodology, your terminology, the way that you want to teach in a way that represents you and your program. And so your responsibility as a coach is to make sure that you coach your coaches all the time, not just your players. Coach your coaches, because as a head coach, you're not going to be in every drill. You're not going to be in everything. It's not possible. You're going to have to delegate, and making sure that you give your coaches the tools to be able to teach your kids the way that you want it done is critical. Again, really enjoyed having Gavin on the show. Looking forward to watching them play this year. If you like what we're doing on this show, please share it with a friend. Go on. We're on all the podcast networks and on YouTube. If you like what we're doing, rate us. Send me a message if you'd like to hear a topic discussed or a guest on the show that we haven't had. Wide open to anything like that. But the best way to spread the message is to share it with a friend. Until next time, have a great day. Have a great week.